Sexual objectification is the act of treating a person merely as an instrument of sexual pleasure, making them a sex object. Objectification more broadly means treating a person as a commodity or an object, without regard to their personality or dignity. Objectification is most commonly examined at the level of a society, but can also refer to the behavior of individuals. The concept of sexual objectification, and, in particular, the objectification of women, is an important idea in feminist theory and psychological theories derived from feminism. Many feminists regard sexual objectification as objectionable, and as playing an important role in gender inequality. Some social commentators, however, argue that some modern women objectify themselves as an expression of their empowerment over men, while others argue that increased sexual freedom for women, gay, and bisexual men has led to an increase of the objectification of men. The idea of sexual objectification has also been an important area of discussion and debate in the area of sexual ethics and the philosophy of sex. Contents: Sexual objectification of women. Feminist scholars say that the objectification of women involves the act of disregarding the personal and intellectual abilities and capabilities of a female, and reducing a woman's worth or role in society to that of an instrument for the sexual pleasure that she can produce in the mind of another. Dubious, discuss, although opinions differ as to which situations are objectionable, some feminists who see objectification of women taking place in the sexually oriented depictions of women in advertising and media, women being portrayed as weak or submissive through pornography, images in more mainstream media such as advertising and art, stripping and prostitution, men brazenly evaluating or judging women sexually or aesthetically in public spaces and events, such as beauty contests, and the presumed need for cosmetic surgery, particularly breast enlargement and labiaplasty. Citation needed. Though notable exceptions exist, historically women have been valued mainly for their physical attributes. Citation needed. Some feminists and psychologists, who argue that such objectification can lead to negative psychological effects including depression and hopelessness, and can give women negative self-images, because of the belief that their intelligence and competence are currently not being, nor will ever be, acknowledged by society. Citation needed. Some have argued that the feminist movement itself has contributed to the problem of the sexual objectification of women, by pushing for an end to the so-called oppressive patriarchal marriage, and promoting free love, that is women choosing to have non-reproductive sex outside of marriage, and for their own pleasure. Such promotion has increased the average number of lifetime sexual partners for men, which in turn has caused some men to devalue sex, which in turn has caused men who objectify women to devalue women. Dubious, discuss, the precise degree to how objectification has affected women and society in general is a topic of academic debate. Citation needed. Such claims include: girls' understanding of the importance of appearance in society may contribute to feelings of fear, shame, and disgust that some experience during the transition from girlhood to womanhood, because they sense that they are becoming more visible to society as sexual objects, and that young women are especially susceptible to objectification, as they are often taught that power, respect, and wealth can be derived from one's outward appearance. Pro-feminist cultural critics such as Robert Jensen and Suitjali accuse mass media and advertising of promoting the objectification of women to help promote goods and services. The objection to the objectification of women is not a recent phenomenon. In the French Enlightenment, for example, there was a debate as to whether a woman's breasts were merely a sensual enticement or rather a natural gift. In Alexander Guillaume Marcier de Moissy's 1771 play The True Mother, La Vraie Mère, the title character rebukes her husband for treating her as merely an object for his sexual gratification. Are your senses so gross as to look on these breasts, the respectable treasures of nature, as merely an embellishment, destined to ornament the chest of women? Female self-objectification. Feminists such as Ariel Levy contend that exploitation by Western women of their sexuality by, for example, wearing revealing clothing and engaging in lewd behavior, are forms of female self-objectification. While some women see such behavior as a form of empowerment, critics contend that it has led to greater emphasis on a physical criterion or sexualization for women's perceived self-worth, which Levy calls Raunch culture. Levy discusses this phenomenon in Female Chauvinist Pigs, Women and the Rise of Raunch Culture. Levy followed the camera crew from the Girls Gone Wild video series, and argues that contemporary America's sexualized culture not only objectifies women, it encourages women to objectify themselves. In today's culture, Levy writes, the idea of a woman participating in a wet t-shirt contest, or being comfortable watching explicit pornography has become a symbol of feminist strength. She says that she was surprised at how many people, both men and women, working for programs such as Girls Gone Wild told her that this new raunchy culture marked not the downfall of feminism but its triumph, because it proved that US women have become strong enough to express their sexuality publicly. Sexual objectification of men. Feminist authors Christina Hoff Sommers and Naomi Wolf write that women's sexual liberation has led many women to a role reversal, whereby they view men as sex objects, in a manner similar to what they criticize about men's treatment of women. Research has suggested that the psychological effects of objectification on men are similar to those of women, leading to negative body image among men. Instances where men may be viewed as sex objects by women include advertising, music videos, movies, and television shows, beefcake calendars, women's magazines, male strip shows, and clothed female nude male, CFNM, events. Also, more women are purchasing and consuming pornography. Views on sexual objectification. While the concept of sexual objectification is important within feminist theory, ideas vary widely on what constitutes sexual objectification, and what are the ethical implications of such objectification. Some feminists such as Naomi Wolf find the concept of physical attractiveness itself to be problematic, with some radical feminists being opposed to any evaluation of another person's sexual attractiveness, based on physical characteristics. John Stoltenberg goes so far as to condemn as wrongfully objectifying any sexual fantasy that involves visualization of a woman. Radical feminists view objectification as playing a central role, and reducing women to what they refer to as the sex class. While some feminists view mass media in societies that they argue are patriarchal to be objectifying, they often focus on pornography as playing an egregious role in habituating men to objectify women. Other feminists, particularly those identified with sex-positive feminism, take a different view of sexual objectification, and see it as a problem when it is not counterbalanced by women's sense of their own sexual subjectivity. Citation needed. Some social conservatives have taken up aspects of the feminist critique of sexual objectification. In their view, however, the increase in the sexual objectification of both sexes in Western culture is one of the negative legacies of the sexual revolution. These critics, notably Wendy Shalott, advocate a return to pre-sexual revolution standards of sexual morality, which Shalott refers to as a return to modesty, as an antidote to sexual objectification. Other feminists contest feminist claims about the objectification of women. Camille Paglia holds that turning people into sex objects is one of the specialties of our species. In her view, objectification is closely tied to, and may even be identical with, the highest human faculties toward conceptualization and aesthetics. Individualist feminist Wendy McElroy holds that the label sex object means nothing because inanimate objects are not sexual. She continues that women are their bodies as well as their minds and souls. Objectification theory. Sexual objectification has been studied, based on the proposition that girls and women develop their primary view of their physical selves from observing others. These observations can take place in the media, or through personal experience. Through a blend of expected and actual exposure, women are socialized to objectify their own physical characteristics from a third-person perception, which is identified as self-objectification. Women and girls develop an expected physical appearance for themselves, based on observations of others, and are aware that others are likely to observe as well. The sexual objectification and self-objectification of women is believed to influence social gender roles and inequalities between the sexes. Self-objectification. Self-objectification can increase in situations which heighten the awareness of an individual's physical appearance. Here, the presence of a third-person observer is enhanced. Therefore, when individuals know others are looking at them, or will be looking at them, they are more likely to care about their physical appearance. Examples of the enhanced presence of an observer include the presence of an audience, camera, or other known observer. Women, girls, and self-objectification. Primarily, objectification theory describes how women and girls are influenced as a result of expected social and gender roles. Research indicates not all women are influenced equally, due to the anatomical, hormonal, and genetic differences of the female body. However, women's bodies are often objectified and evaluated more frequently. Females learn that their physical appearance is important to themselves and society. As a result, females consider their physical appearance often, expecting that others will also. Sexual objectification occurs when a person is identified by their sexual body parts or sexual function. In essence, an individual loses their identity and is recognized solely by the physical characteristics of their body. The purpose of this recognition is to bring enjoyment to others, or to serve as a sexual object for society. Sexual objectification can occur as a social construct among individuals. Psychological consequences. Objectification theory suggests both direct and indirect consequences of objectification to women. Indirect consequences include self-consciousness in terms that a woman is consistently checking or rearranging her clothes or appearance to ensure that she is presentable. This self-consciousness may also result in a lack of motivation, because it distracts from what would be the motivating focus. More direct consequences are related to sexual victimization. Rape and sexual harassment are examples of this. Dubh, 2012, states that sexual harassment is one of the challenges faced by women in workplace. This may constitute sexual jokes or comments, most of which are degrading. Research indicates that objectification theory is valuable to understanding how repeated visual images in the media are socialized and translated into mental health problems, including psychological consequences on the individual and societal level. These include increased self-consciousness, increased body anxiety, heightened mental health threats, depression, anorexia nervosa, bulimia, and sexual dysfunction, and increased body shame. Therefore, the theory has been used to explore an array of dependent variables including disordered eating, mental health, depression, motor performance, body image, idealized body type, stereotype formation, sexual perception and sexual typing. Body shame is a byproduct of the concept of an idealized body type adopted by most Western cultures that depicts a thin model type figure. Thus, women will engage in actions meant to change their bodies such as dieting, exercise, eating disorders, cosmetic surgery, etc. Effects of objectification theory are identified on both the individual and societal levels. Causes of depression. Learned helplessness theory posits that, because human bodies are only alterable to a certain point, people develop a sense of body shame and anxiety from which they create a feeling of helplessness in relation to correcting their physical appearance and helplessness in being able to control the way in which others perceive their appearance. This lack of control often results in depression. In relating to a lack of motivation, objectification theory states that women have less control in relationships and the work environment, because they have to depend on the evaluation of another who is typically basing their evaluation on physical appearance. Since the dependence on another's evaluation limits a woman's ability to create her own positive experiences and motivation, it adversely increases her likelihood for depression. Furthermore, sexual victimization may be a cause. Specifically, victimization within the workplace degrades women. Harassment experienced every day wears on a woman, and sometimes results in a state of depression. Sexual fetishism. Sexual fetishism can be considered sexual objectification when a person is assigned, or adopts the status of the fetish object. In BDSM activities, even though it is consensual, subjecting a submissive to erotic humiliation can be regarded as sexual objectification. Human furniture is a form of fetishism and sexual objectification. Alan Jones' hat stand and table sculpture incorporates semi-naked women into furniture and are regarded as sexual objectification and are regarded as sexual objectification and are regarded